Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Your Ukrainian One and only podcast about Ukraine, Ukrainian culture, Ukrainian people. Today we have usual guests. It's not guests, we are just like conducting this podcast. My name is Igor. Hi. And my co-host is
Lubo. Hello, everyone. We're really glad to make one more episode for you, and I hope you enjoy listening our podcast. And today we have, let's say, very special guest. It's not a guest, but
a spirit of Ukrainian culture.
I hope today this spirit will be with us. But we are going to speak about really special character of and about really special person in Ukrainian's life and in Ukrainian culture. It's going to be about Taras Shevchenko, and frankly speaking, I'm a bit nervous because it is really huge man. It's huge person in our history, in our culture, and Ukrainians have really special attitude to him. So
let's try and explain why is he a huge person, why is he an enormous artist.
Okay, it's a poet. But we know him as a poet, but he also was a painter. And in Ukrainian culture, he is everywhere. And I'd like to start with deepen you in this context that in Ukraine, Taras Shevchenko, he is everywhere.
We basically named everything, after him. You can see streets, you can see some theaters, you can see a lot of public places called like Taras Shevchenko University, Taras Shevchenko Theater, Taras Shevchenko, etc.
I really love this joke. It's not a joke, it's a fact, but it shows how important he is and for us, because, for example, in Kyiv there is Taras Shevchenko Boulevard. On this boulevard you will find Taras Shevchenko University. Near this university you will find the park named after Taras Shevchenko. In this park you will find the monument of Taras Shevchenko, and all of this is located in Shevchenko's region of Kyiv. Let's say district, right? Shevchenko's district. So Shevchenko is literally everywhere in our life. It's on our money. It's even in there is YouTube channel named after Taras Shevchenko. It literally called the YouTube channel named after Taras Shevchenko. In Ukrainian YouTube, they cover it. So literally we are naming everything that is around us after him, and it's quite interesting and funny, and that's why we couldn't be a podcast about Ukraine and Ukrainians without covering this topic and without telling and explaining who is Taras Shevchenko for us.
Yeah, that's true. And basically in every city and town, I wanted to add that if you will tell somebody, let's meet at Taras Shevchenko Street, they will know exactly where it is. So every city, town or village in Ukraine has a street called Taras Shevchenko Street or Taras Shevchenko Venue, anything like that.
Yes, so you won't find a place without Taras Shevchenko Street. We have a lot of Taras factories that named after him. So literally, literally. He's everywhere. Yeah, a lot of museums because actually he traveled a lot around Ukraine. So there are a lot of villages and small towns who have a sort of Taras Shevchenko museum because he slept here for 3 nights. So we will make a museum from this place. So yes, it is really a huge person in our history and culture. And
here's why, Lubov.
Here's why. No, I want to ask because, of course, I had to make some research before this recording, and I realized that actually I had different impression. Since we learned him at school. We just learned what I remember, that he was a big poet. He wrote a lot of poets that all of us, some words will know by heart, definitely. Of course, and he was imprisoned, and he liked to paint, and yeah, that's it.
That's he liked to paint. He painted good, actually. He
was
a good painter as well.
I'm telling what I remember from the school curriculum, what I remember from the school. And yes, it was put it this way that he was a painter also. But interesting that he actually was at first a painter and literature and making poems. It started like a hobby for him. So it's interesting that we okay, maybe not all of us, because there are definitely a lot of people who know him deeper than I was. Yes, but majority of Ukrainians will think of him first of all, like about the poet. So it's really interesting how this history is twisted. Do you remember something special from school, from learning of him?
Yeah.
Did he somehow
his mustache?
Yeah,
this is the best mustache ever, actually. I do remember a lot. We had a huge, a huge part of our curriculum dedicated to his art, to his poems, to his texts in general, and to his painting as well. For somehow, as we were telling, we had like Russian-speaking schools and Ukrainian-speaking schools. So I was in Russian-speaking school, and somehow in Russian-speaking school we had like one of the most amazing teachers of Ukrainian literature. She did amazing job. It was extremely interesting, but being like barbaric teenager, I was quite barbaric, honestly speaking. I didn't pay attention that much to his art, because like I had way more serious things at that time. Like I don't know,
like your hormones.
Yeah, like my hormones, basically. Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, everything hormone related at that time. So yeah, but still. Oh, and his hat, his famous hat. That's what I remember most importantly. But I'm not like the very average Ukrainian, I would say. I'm very average, stupid Ukrainian.
Okay, did he somehow grab your attention, or do you recall something, I don't know, interesting fact of him or something interesting that actually made you to remember him? Because I'm asking it because as for me, as I remember in this year, learning about him at school, I don't remember that I thought that he was something significant. So for my understanding, it was just one of huge number of poets that we learned about. So I didn't differ him from others, it was just one of, for me, it was my attitude, and it was just okay. We are learning Shevchenko, then we are learning Franco, then we are learning anyone else, Stus, or okay. I didn't even bother myself to remember from what century he was, who was first, who was the next one. It was just one of them, and actually. I didn't understand, and I had this idea. If he's just one of a lot of other poets, why exactly Shevchenko has this attitude and he's everywhere, right? He's on the money, on the streets, and his monument is in literally every small town, every town, every city.
I wasn't thinking that deep at that time, but I do remember he had coolest gang of artists. I've seen a picture in school. He had like their own. They had like their own creative community, kind of. There were like 5 or 6 of them, and they were like the coolest dudes ever in that picture. I do remember that I was like, whoa, serious. These are nice gentlemen, very distinguished gentlemen. We were taught that he's the greatest out of majority, I would say, artists, but we were never explained why actually he's the greatest. We were studying some of his poems, I assume, and there is prose part. There was prose part, right?
Sorry. My mom asked me to mention that she knows it by heart. Or song. No, yeah, but sorry. No, it's about a dream. Song. Yeah, she knows it. All of it she knows by heart.
Oh, still. Yeah. Cool.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Luba's mom. That's amazing. You have amazing memory. Good for you.
Yeah, she's working on it.
That's very cool. So, Lubov, tell me please, why is he distinguished that much? Besides being like cool gang guy, cool gang artist guy who did the coolest stuff ever.
Actually, I'm not sure I can. That my explanation will be precise. That he is really that is why he's really amazing. But actually, he for me, he I don't know how to say it. He shows this Ukrainian spirit. And you can even track it even to back to his life. Yes, he was born. Let's start to put people in the picture and add more details. He was born in 1814, so beginning of 19th century. And even during his life, you can track this Ukrainian spirit and Ukrainian love for freedom. Yes, so he was born in small village in I'm not sure how to say it correctly. In the one regular poor enough family, he was one of all. They had 6 children, if my memory serves me right. He was third. He was definitely third child, but they had a lot of kids in their family. His parents died early. He was around 9 years old, as I remember, when his mom died. But what we have to remember and to know about this period, that definitely there was no independent country called Ukraine back that time. Our lands was part of Russian Empire with monarchy and autocracy, definitely. And back that days, the common law was we had some, let's say, part of people who were serf. Let's say even sort of slaves. They didn't have rights. They had some rights, but let's put it this way. Let's explain what this serfdom was on our land. So there was some field lord that owned some land, and he owned all people who lived on this land. In our language, we call these field lords pan, and nowadays this word transformed its meaning. So now pan, it's sort of Mister, but 200 years ago, it was a person who owns a land and all people on this land. So you was, if you're living there and you have this pure lord, you have to serve him, and you don't have right to move to different, just to move to different town, city, for example. So you have to get a permission to move if you want to live in some other place. He literally owns you.
So it's kind of slavery.
Yeah, it's kind of slavery, but with some rights. But these rights. So we have long story of this serfdom. It starts really, really long time ago. But from one period to the other, these human rights was different. Some days, in some period, for example, you, for example, could build the house and own your house. In some period, you couldn't do it. In some period, you had to work for the Lord for example, 2 days per week. But in some periods, you had to work for him 6 days per week, and you just had only 1 day off, for example. It differs from period to period. But what's the one point is that actually, in the middle of 17th century, on our Ukrainian land, this serfdom was ended actually with Bogdan Khmelnytsky. It was a huge war there, and we won't touch this, what happened that times. But as a result, in fact, de facto, the serfdom was ended. But then Katerina II came. She was imperatrice of this Russian Empire, and in early in the, and I'm not sure the exact year. It's sort of 1783, if I remember correctly. Let's say that the end of the 18th century, she make this rule again. So she, let's say, restored this law about serfdom. And again, people could own other people. So she restored this serfdom again. And when Taras Shevchenko was born, he was born in the family that was literally slaves. They were literally slaves. So what was the consequences? Yes, if you're born in such a family, the main goal of your life was to work for your Lord. It means that your education is not necessary, and it wasn't really common to send children to the school. Yeah, you could went to some church school, could go to some schools in church, where you could learn some maybe basic grammar, and actually that's it. Some of them, some of these children, if you want to learn, you will read some books, you will do something, but let's say you didn't have really huge opportunity to grow and to study in some
really
good
huge. You had none
lyceums.
of the opportunities to grow
Yeah, so
like at all.
so frankly speaking, and only few of these children could go to some lyceums, to better schools, even in different towns. And actually, it is sort of a common story in for our Ukrainian poets' biographies. All of them started with sort of phrases that he studied really well in his school in his village, so they got a permission for this child to study in better school in some town, in some bigger town, for example. So actually it was common for majority of our poets that someone noticed a talent and wanted to help this child and tried to do something to teach this child. So Taras Shevchenko was one of such kind of children. He early showed his talent to drawing, and actually later in his teens, his lord, surname I do remember, Engelgard, he noticed his talent, and he even let him to study in some painting school in Vilnius, in Vilna. So he studied how to paint in a big school, and actually Taras wanted to draw. He actually wanted to grow as a painter. Yes, so what is interesting for me, because we know him as a poet, and at that school, he found a lot of friends, and his talent was really significant, really noticeable, and even he really famous painter Karl Brylov, he noticed his talent, and he wanted Taras to study in some another school in St. Petersburg. But Taras couldn't leave his lord. He was enslaved. He couldn't just go to St. Petersburg to study. He had to get a permission to move, and his friends and even this Karl Brylov, they somehow they convinced Engelgard to let him, and they actually he even named how much money Taras costs. So they collected this money, his friends, Taras' friends, and they redeemed him. They literally bought his freedom.
Well,
and
yeah, slavery, you know.
Yeah, it was literally slavery, and I found the exact price, and I was surprised. I didn't know it at school. He costs 2,500 rubles. For that days, it was an equivalent of 45 kilograms of pure silver.
Ooh. I wonder how much is this in current currencies.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot. 45 kilograms of silver. It is. I just wanted to imagine how it looks like. How does this kilograms looks like? It's how many silver
like
you have to.
Person.
Yeah, it's literally, I guess, the equivalent of his own weight, I guess. I don't know.
Probably.
Probably, yeah, something like this. Yeah. It's a huge sum, right? I'm sure for that days, definitely. And interesting story how they collected this money. If I remember exactly, Karl Brulov, he made really tricky thing. He painted someone, I don't remember, I don't want to lie here, that's why I'm not sure, I don't remember whom exactly, but he made a portrait of one of the royal family, and they made a lottery. So someone from the royal family, they had to take part in this lottery because it is a portrait of of their relative, right? So they had to buy this portrait. And because of the lottery, the price was high enough, and because of this is someone from royal family, so the price is high enough. So they managed to collect this sum to buy Taras Shevchenko's freedom using this trick to making this portrait of royal family. It's quite interesting story as for me.
Unbelievable. That's
unbelievable.
Yeah, really. Could you imagine you have to buy out your friend from slavery for him to go or her to go study somewhere?
Yeah, just to get an education. And obviously, it's half of the story, yes, just to buy his freedom. To live in St. Petersburg is far away from Ukraine, from his hometown. You have to live there somewhere. Yes, you have to eat something. So it's really hard. You just buy freedom, but you have nothing in your life. Nothing.
Well, that's how serf peasantry was working, actually, at that time. I don't think they really doubted that, because, they were born into that. But right now it sounds pretty much barbaric. Pretty hard to imagine yourself, oneself, in such situation, because, seriously. Come on, guys. You cannot own people. It's
yes,
not
and
only
actually,
illegal. It is.
Actually, you mentioned really interesting point that he was born in it, so maybe he didn't think it's not normal. But actually, yes, it was normal for people of that days that this slavery exists, but particularly for Shevchenko, it wasn't normal. So he wrote a lot of poems exactly about this, exactly about people who were enslaved, about his family, his neighbors, about Ukrainians who suffered from authorities, all kind of authorities. Starting from this lord, this pan in their village, any other authority, or even ending with the royal family. So actually, his poems are written about it. That's why he really fast became really famous around regular Ukrainians. He started to write poems just as a hobby, and even he had a lot of friends who wanted to convince him not to waste his time for this literature and dedicate all his time to learn how to paint, right? But it was just like a hobby. He did it, and his poetry was interesting for his friends and his people who were around him in St. Petersburg, because he actually did it in Ukrainian language. And for them, it was something, interesting folk motives. It was something interesting for them. Yes, it was exotic for them. That's why they liked these poems, because it was, some far from them, some different life. They never saw it. And this sounds so interesting and different from the Russian language. But in Ukraine, they even helped him to make his first book called Kobzar. And he known in Ukraine as Kobzar. Kobza, it's Ukrainian version of, I don't even know, do we have any other examples of a musician's instrument?
It's musical instrument, yeah. It's
yes,
like
it is.
instrument.
Yeah, I can't. It's okay. Just guitar comes to my mind, but it's not. It's not. Definitely.
It's way more complicated than guitar. And basically, Kobzar, if you will translate it in English, that means bard, Ukrainian bard.
Mm-hmm. The person who plays this instrument, Kobza, and he named this first book after this person who played this Kobzar, because he collected a lot of different national songs, and he made poems about Ukrainian life, and he imagined himself like this bard who are traveling around Ukraine and telling his story. So he called it Kobzar. So it was sort of okay to live in St. Petersburg, to be in this nice atmosphere with these all friendly people around him. And he was reading his poems, and he was learning how to draw, yes, how to paint, and actually he was very successful on his course. Actually, he even had really, really good marks there. He got even some significant, I don't know how to say it, he was a remarkable student, let's say. And
he was valedictorian, yes. The best pupil at the course, I would say.
Not the best, but really, really good and remarkable. But what surprised me that I'm not really I'm not good in this sphere. I don't understand painting much, and I didn't pay attention for that fact that actually Taras Shevchenko was a painter. So I saw his pictures and wow. Wow, he really was a good painter. And for me, it is the biggest insight that actually, yes, he was a hugely talented painter. And for that days, definitely. So he ended his studying and he got a job to be in expedition In Ukraine, they traveled around the small villages and towns, and they collected national culture. It was like, a period when it was interesting for, let's say, interesting. They started, as they claimed, little Russian nations. So this territory of Ukrainian lands, of Ukrainians, Russian Empire called these territories, people on these territories, as little Russians, and they researching their language, their folk in general, right? Their way of life, their songs, national songs, and Shevchenko was a part of this expedition as a painter. He drew a lot of historical Ukrainian places. He learned Ukrainian history a lot, but definitely.
I think we should admit that he was painting, he was drawing actually some naked women as well. So go check it out. It's it's very precise, I would say.
Okay, they didn't have internet and that day, so they had to entertain themselves as they can. So knowing how to draw.
And also he has a picture of some gypsy fortune teller, which is like it's very nice, it's very colorful, and you really can feel something when you are looking at those pictures. He was like transmitting emotions and different states of mind. So I'm really like, I like eye candies, I like stuff to watch at, to look at, and I would definitely recommend his paintings and his drawings because they really convey some emotions. They really do.
I can recommend one that really grabbed my attention. The one called A Model. Naturnica.
Yeah, a model. This is the picture with a naked butt lady.
But no, it's not about naked lady. It's made using aquarelle. But the details, how he showed the light, all of the
Are
details.
You sure it's aquarelle? Because I see it as a drawing.
It is aquarelle. I really literally Googled it because I couldn't believe it.
Aquarelle means water paint, just in case.
Water. It's incredible. The texture, how he showed it. It's just I was shocked, and actually this picture is stored in Kyiv museum of Taras Shevchenko's museum. So really, it is the second thing I want to do after my coming back home to Kyiv. First, I'm going to my place and check is it still exists. The second thing, I want to go to this museum and to see these pictures alive. I don't know how to say. So
I like the one which is called "Solitude in Her Own House." In Ukrainian, it's «Сама собі в своїй господі».
I didn't see this. I didn't see this one.
I assume it's also aquarelle, as you say, but you literally look at this and you think it's like a pencil drawing, but it is aquarelle, as I understood from your words, right?
I didn't see that picture that you're telling about, but yes, he mostly used aquarelle. had different. He knew different techniques, but mostly he used aquarelle, as I understood from what what my research is saying, that mostly he was using aquarelle. Yes. Because of his ability to draw, he was in this expedition, and it really made his it affected his poetry really much, because when we decided on this topic, I asked a lot of my friends what do they know about Shevchenko and what do they think of him. And some of them said that, oh, I didn't like him at school because all of his literature, everything he was saying, it's like blaming, oh my God, how poor things we are. So nothing positive. Everyone are crying and dying and started.
1 second. I figured out, we were talking about different pictures when I was telling drawing. A model. There is a picture called A model.
Yes, A model.
It is, wait. It is drawing by pencil, but an artist's model, it is aquarelle. They actually look quite similar, but really different. These are two different pictures, I would say.
Okay, because I saw Naturnica. It was translated as a model, was signed as a model, and it was said that it is aquarelle. Maybe, I don't know. Okay. So we will have to make more research after this podcast. Actually, I really want to make more research after this podcast.
It is actually it is endless. You can do research all the time because there is a lot.
I felt like it's just a huge part that I don't know. It's so huge because he knew so many famous people. He lived in the same time with Mickiewicz, with Zdebrilov, with Kvitka Osnovyanenko. So it's so huge part that I don't know. I didn't know it exists. So actually, I'm really glad we are talking about it, and I'm really glad that I opened this part of our history, and it's actually really interesting how it correlates with nowadays, with our life today, because you can find these similarities about this attitude, Russians' attitude to Ukrainian language. They are claiming that it is an artificial country that was made by Lenin, one of my favorite propaganda, Russian propaganda about us. Come on. What about Shevchenko? He was live in 19th century. He was writing his poem on Ukrainian. Definitely this nation existed even that time. Yes, and this correlation we will see it later, because now I want to show that he found out a lot about Ukrainian history, and his poems became more, as my friends said, that they didn't like it because it's like, oh my God, there was nothing positive in these poems, but he actually expressed the regular life, the life that he came from, right? As he was this serf, this slave, his family still was, and actually he never managed to get his family freedom. During his life, his family was still his brothers, sisters, they still was slaves. So he really felt this pain, and this pain is in his poetries. Everything he wrote is about it. And for the beginning, this St. Petersburg's Russian public saw this as something interesting and exotic, but then Russian authorities realized and saw that it is quite danger for their government, for their royal family, because Taras really didn't like this royal family and autocracy, and he was against it. And of course, his poetry expressed it. And in 1948, he was fast arrested because of his. It's a long story why, and there are a lot of theories why exactly he was arrested. And there is even one of them that in his poem, Son, I guess, I'm not sure in what poem, that he wrote something bad about royalties. That's why Mykola the First was how to pronounce it correctly? Imperator. Imperator. Hello. Emperor. Thank you. Yes. One theory says that Mykola the First, the emperor of the days, he personally ordered to arrest Shevchenko. I don't know, was it true or not, but it's one of the theory. The other one is that actually Russian authorities start to watch a lot of organizations, and it was one organization called Karelo-Mefodiyeva Bratstvo, Brotherhood, that actually started they was sort of revolutionary organizations that wanted to serve Ukrainian culture and wanted to, to make Ukrainian culture bigger and greater. And Russian authorities definitely saw danger in it. And nothing new for us, of course. So as a result, Shevchenko was arrested, and one of the punishment of that days was he was sent to serve in an army, and he was sent to the Central Asia, so 1,000 kilometers away from St. Petersburg and even more from Ukraine. And he actually was there for 10 years. During all this time, all his famous friends were trying to get freedom for him again, let's say. But nothing works. They wrote a lot of letters, they asked a lot Russian authorities, at least to make his life there as easier, at least, but nothing worked. Even after it was easier to do it after Mykola the First died. I don't remember who ruled after him, but when he died, it was easier. So they finally managed, these Taras friends, they finally managed to get freedom for him. And even after he got this freedom. He until his death, he was under constant watching. So police watched him, and even he came back to St. Petersburg. He had to get a permission to live in the St. Petersburg. Then he went to Ukraine to travel around Ukraine and to see his relatives, and he had to get a permission to do this, to go there. Actually, as I understand, it was a common thing that days that you couldn't just move between cities. But in his case, it was really hard to get this permission because he was watched all the time. He was one of the danger elements. He was a revolutionary. He was against royalty family. So for him, it was really even harder to get these permissions. So definitely his health got worse during this. He's been in this Middle Asia because, of course, conditions there was really hard, and he even traveled around that area because he was in one expedition as a drover too, that researched that lands. And he had a lot of illnesses there. So he died in 1861. So he was released in 1858. And in 3 years, he unfortunately died in St. Petersburg. During his being in this Central Asia, he didn't have a permission to draw. He didn't have a permission to write poems, to make any kind of literature. All of his, definitely his books were banned. You couldn't produce and sell his books. And it was even... his books were taken away from all libraries, for all places where they were stored. But he gained huge popularity among Ukrainians all over the world, and definitely there in Central Asia there was some Ukrainians too that were served in that army in that places. So they made his life there a bit easier because he found a lot of friends there too. But yes, since that days till today, because he wrote a lot about, and actually he was one, maybe even the first, I don't know, but one of first who started to write in Ukrainian about Ukraine, about real Ukrainian life that days. And he gained the biggest popularity. His poetry is really easy to read. It's interesting how he built his poems. It's really
very
easy
understandable and relatable, I would say.
Yes.
So you
Easy
read it,
words,
you understand, and you actually feel the stuff, which is quite rare amongst the popular authors, which were like kind of a big deal right now. He's still actual till these days, actually.
Yes.
Lots of his poems, you can just take blueprint from his poem and apply it to your life situation in any time. Well, beside the slavery stuff, the slavery stuff is not relatable anymore, thank God. But still, it is very, very, very applicable.
And I really wanted to find some pieces in English, and there are he's translated to a huge amount of different languages, but I didn't like what I found. I really wanted to, quote him. But it's hard to quote him out of the context, So his quotes is really relates to your life, and if you don't in the Ukrainian context, it won't sound for you maybe even understandable. I guess, I don't know.
As much meaningful, I would say.
Yeah, definitely as much meaningful.
Well, that's a disease of whole authors. As soon as they're being translated, the part of the meaning is lost, unfortunately. But that happens, and he's still understandable even in English translation.
Yes, he is, and in Ukrainian language, it's interesting because if you again, my impression from what we learned at school, not all authors, not all poetry is easy to read. They sometimes use some specific words, specific phrases. Sometimes it's hard to, just to dive deep in the topic and to read. But he used so easy words, making so amazing sentences, and you're reading, and the tempo is the same, and you're just diving in the story, and you forget that it's the poetry. You just forget about it when you read his poem. It's amazing. And he wrote huge amount of poems, and I'm really impressed how productive he was, even being enslaved, studying, being literally imprisoned, in living in terrible conditions. He managed to draw a lot, to write a lot, and to leave such huge heritage for us. Yes, it's just incredible, and yes, I opened him for myself in different way, thanks to this podcast. And the interesting Ukrainian attitude. Once I had a conversation with my cousin from Georgia, and I made a joke that anywhere in the world you will recognize Ukrainian. Really, it's really easy to recognize Ukrainian, because if Ukrainian comes somewhere, we always adapt, and in some time of living in some different country, you will find three things. It will be some Sunday school. It will be monument, Shevchenko's monument, and they will get the money for something. Three things Ukrainian always do in the different countries.
Yeah.
No, it's it's quite funny, but I googled about monuments, Shevchenko's monuments. My recommendation is the best of the best. Just Google his monument in Rome. No one saw such kind of Shevchenko. It's quite funny from our point of view.
What is that? Is that eclectic, or what? How does it look like?
It's really eclectic. It's like he's, I don't know, he's not Taras Shevchenko. It looks like he's Caesar, or something, or so on some ancient philosopher, something like this. Yeah, it's really from our point of view, he looks quite funny, but.
I just
You
googled
Googled?
it. Yeah, that's really. It looks kind of. I don't want to offend any Italian ethnicities, but it looks kind of Greek or something. It looks very, or like ancient Roman. It's very. Yeah, you should really see that. Just Google that.
Actually, everything is almost fits, because yes, this monument looks like he's some ancient philosopher. Can we call Taras Shevchenko a philosopher? Definitely. Not so ancient, of course.
Yeah,
Not a
but
philosopher.
he looks like the Pope, kind of. Just a little bit. Something there is something I cannot describe. It is extremely cool. It's super cool.
I regret so much. I had been traveling around Italy, and I've been in Rome, and somehow I missed this monument. I regret so much that I didn't see it when I was in Rome. But it's incredible. It's my first recommendation, my top recommendation to Google how does his monument looks like in Rome. It's
and if you are in Rome, just visit that monument. It's like I would visit that. I will visit that.
Actually, I even had an idea sometimes, as I like to travel, and I had a lot of plans to travel in my previous life, and actually I had even an idea to visit to visit each country where is a monument of Shevchenko. It is 35 countries so far, so you can find it literally.
Sounds like travel show.
Yeah, it's okay. Maybe it's not a travel show, but definitely travel goal, a really nice goal. So you can find his monuments in really a lot of places around the world. One of my favorite stories is about his monument in Washington. It was erected in 1964. And for me, it's really interesting story because definitely in 1960s, you can imagine that no one knows in America what is Ukraine and where is Ukraine. In 1960s, for America, Ukraine doesn't exist. I mean, in minds, right? I'm not even telling in some political life. Ukraine was a part of United Nations, but that's it. That's everything they could know. But somehow Ukrainian diaspora managed to convince Washington's authorities to erect this monument. I don't know how they did it, but the result actually it shows how sometimes maybe even annoying but powerful can be Ukrainian diaspora, because the speech when they opened this monument, yes, it was some celebration and hundreds thousands people, Ukrainians all over the world came there, because in Washington, the monument of Shevchenko, it's really huge. It's a huge event. All of the people gathered there to open this monument, to show it, and it was opened by USA former President Dwight Eisenhower. So how they managed to do it? I mean, Ukrainian diaspora, I don't know, but we can now assume how annoying and they was that they convinced. But Soviet embassy and Soviet government was really against this, and they did a lot to prevent this monument to exist.
Well, nothing new as usual.
Nothing
basically.
new, nothing new. We have the same history for centuries.
Thank God it is I think it's coming to an end.
Actually, that is why I see. Now I'm out of Ukraine, and here in this country, where am I? When people asking where you from, of course I'm telling that I'm from Ukraine, and sometimes they say me, "Oh, you are so brave." But it's yes, Ukrainians are an extremely brave nation, but it's not about bravery. It's about, come on, we are fed up with this history and with this Russian suppression. We just all times we live through these events when our culture is prohibited, our language is questionable. They claim that it shouldn't exist or it doesn't exist. They are trying
that's
to
understandable.
raise.
Bravery is our brand. Actually, we just don't consider it something special. For us, it's normal. For others, it's very, very unusual to be brave. In terms of trying to state your place and your will at your own land. That is absolutely fine. They will somehow they will understand after a certain time that it is normal and it is absolutely fine to be Ukrainian brave. So this is our brand.
Actually, yes, and I wanted to add that it is our way of life through centuries. So we don't have any other options, because through centuries our nation was trying to be, Russia was trying to erase our nation for centuries. That's why if you want to survive, you have to have this bravery. Definitely not all of Ukrainians are so brave, someone more, someone less, but as a result, we know how to unite, we know how to act and how to survive. And yes, as you say, it is special, but we've done it so many times in our history, so it's not so special for us. It is special, still special, but it is not so special. And even with this podcast, it's...
Любовь, what is the word of the day, actually?
Actually, we said a lot of Ukrainian words today. And let it be Kobzar.
Kobzar, amazing. You can translate Kobzar as bard, right? Ukrainian bard.
With a really special music instrument. Ukrainian instrument. And actually Google some music with kobza. It sounds really, really romantic, I would say.
It sounds like mixture of an harp and guitar, I guess. Something like in the middle. It is very unique. You would definitely love to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for your listening. Please don't hesitate to subscribe to us, to write your comment, to tell us, let us know whether we were right or we were terribly wrong. You are always welcome to comment, to like or dislike our podcast, but we would prefer you to like us, actually, because we kind of like you, right?
Not kind of, definitely. We like you, and yes, we appreciate if you help to spread awareness about Ukraine and Ukrainians, pressing this like button, sharing this video, and please subscribe to our channel and consider to donate using links down below in the description box to help Ukraine, Ukrainians, army, and Ukrainians civilians too. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.